Hudson County View, live at Uncut. I'm your host, the guy that's the linguistic assassinator with lyrics that are rugged and built like Schwarzenegger, John Arhitis, and today we're going to talk the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. It's nice to be back at the Hudson Media Group studio here in North Bergen. So obviously the story that has turned the New Jersey political world on its head is this, I don't even know what to call it, I'm going to say ridiculous Hitman for hire plot. A political operative, many of you know, Sean Cattle. He's worked a bunch of local campaigns. He's worked with anyone ranging from Bob Menendez to Freeholder Anthony Romano to Mayor Jimmy Davis. And he has pleaded guilty to his role in hiring two men to kill a Jersey City man in his apartment. And this was all the way back in 2014. And it had been investigated by the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office and Jersey City Police. And that was a guy who ran for council in 2005 and is actually a son of a state senator. So there's a lot of local context here. So we're going to tell you all about this. I mean, some people are telling me this is the biggest story in 5-10 years as far as Hudson County politics goes. So certainly a lot to talk about there. We're also going to talk about the $241 million Hoboken school referendum. Obviously, voters went to the polls and made sure that this failed by a large plurality. So we're going to discuss what went wrong or what went right, I guess, depending who you ask. And today, fortunately, I'm joined remotely by Jerome Abernathy. Those of you that have been following along know that Jerome was one of the people that was helping get the word out for the no vote. So we're going to talk to him about how they were successful. We're also going to talk about some happenings at the Bayonne Board of Education and the Jersey City Council, all that, maybe a little more, right after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John Arhitis. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, today I'm joined remotely by Hoboken resident Jerome Abernathy, who helped lead the no vote with this school referendum on Tuesday. So Jerome, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. So
No
am I
problem.
purple on your screen or just on mine?
Yeah, it looks like we're having some kind of technical difficulty there, so we'll try to adjust that at the break. So apologize for that. I don't know if that's on your end or our end, but we're going to work on that. I'm sorry.
I assure you I don't have like a purple light in here, but okay.
Yeah, obviously a little inopportune, but again, we'll take a look at that in between. So sorry about that again. But so what do you think about the result on Tuesday? It's obviously a 2-1 plurality or so, not a particularly close vote, obviously. Did that surprise you at all?
It was our goal. We felt that when we started this, that our goal was obviously that we disagreed with the Board of Ed's proposal for a variety of reasons, and so we set out to defeat it. And in our dream scenario, we would go down by about 2-1, and with about 20% turnout. As you know, with these special referendums in New Jersey, typically they are scheduled such that the turnouts are sub 10%. So the goal here was to bring it up.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, you guys came pretty close to the 2-1, pretty much right on the edge there. And of course, the turnout was about 19% right now. So it looks like you accomplished both those goals. So what would you like to see moving forward? Obviously, it's one calendar year before the Board of Ed could do a new proposal. How would you like to see this go? I mean, what would you like to see as part of the plan? What do you think appropriate costs would be? All that and any other related things to this project.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to substantially revise their plan. Any slight modifications of what they have now probably won't be acceptable to the community either. I mean, because what they've done is they have this this building whose design and construction costs were driven by their desire to have, a rooftop football stadium and field, and it's really not necessary. Now, we do recognize that, look, they spent a couple of years on this. They I don't know how many hours they've spent on it. They spent a lot of money on it. That having been said, their tragic mistake was not involving the community during their design phase. Had they included the community, they would realize that this sort of facility at this cost is outsized for our community. It's outsized for the needs of the school system, frankly, and it's according to our community, it's misplaced priorities. Our community believes in education. We want to see our kids well educated in good appropriate facilities, but not one where the costs are hundreds of millions of dollars being spent, essentially because they're so wed to these elaborate sports facilities.
So there seems to be this belief from at least some people that voted yes, that the merits of the project were just outweighed by a very expensive PR campaign. And I guess part of this stems from the fact that their ELEC filings had them raising about $8,500, and people affiliated with a no group hadn't filed at the time. I don't believe that there were any new filings as of today. I checked this morning. So what do you think of that sentiment, and about how much do you think was raised and spent on the no side?
Well, that's the whole thing. We are not a single group. We're a loose coalition of various individuals, some groups. And so, for example, everyone was spending out of pocket on their particular part of the project. I mean, so I probably spent a bit over $4,000 on my part that was advertising. Other people the guy that was leading the charge with social media, he probably spent, somewhere less than $1,000, but in boosting and such and setting up the website. Another person who was involved with raising up the canvassing team and recruiting canvassers. I mean, he spent money like on clipboards and printing stuff and all that. Then yet another person was spending money on data. So everyone's doing stuff out of pocket, because the thing about the referendum, and part of the issue was that it was scheduled in such a way that it was very difficult to raise up opposition. So, we found out about it December 10th. Then everyone does their homework and figures out, hey, we don't like this for a variety of reasons, right? And so then you have to find each other, and you have to decide, let's organize and object to it. And so that takes time. I mean, I was on vacation and I was in Costa Rica. I was in a hotel room. I had no cell phone signal. Thank goodness for a Wi-Fi. But we were in there trying to plan, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to hit the ground in the first week of January? That's how compressed the time frame was. So the idea that anyone was going to set up a corporation, get an EIN number, open up bank accounts, file with the thing, raise money, then pay out of that, it wasn't happening. So it's like, who's in on this? Can you afford to spend on your part of it? Now, we are figuring out who spent what and what all that means, and we're going to come together with that. But there was no single group involved with that. That's the interesting thing. It was literally a collection of individuals with particular skills.
Thanks, Jerome. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, Chadar Haitis. And as I said, and I still am with Jerome Abernathy, the Hoboken resident that helped lead the charge to get the no vote out at that 241 million school referendum. So, all right, so we have a good picture again, so that's certainly a plus. Now,
Right with disco, great.
Yes, well said. So, so you said you guys are going to be figuring out who spent what, and I assume you're eventually going to be filing something with ELEC. Is that what you were getting at before we took a break?
Yeah, we're going to try to figure all that out. I think we have, from the time that I just started to receive, we're starting to collect that information from everyone who spent what, when, and we're going to figure that out shortly. But what you'll see is a collection of individuals who just spent out of pocket on their parts of the project. I would love to say that we had an organized effort. It was less organized than you might imagine.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that your spending was in the neighborhood of like, I don't know, $10,000, $12,000 as opposed to $50,000, $75,000, $100,000?
Oh, yeah, maybe it was, I would hazard the guess. I'd be surprised if we came in at $6,000.
Oh, okay. Very good then. So anyway, sticking on the topic of costs, obviously it would appear that the majority of voters felt that the $241 million price tag was just a little too rich for their blood. So what do you think the right range would be?
Well, to be clear, the vote, in our opinion, was not driven by the cost of the project. It was driven by multiple factors, and it depends on who you were. I mean, when we started out on this, we didn't have any data on how people felt. There was no polling, there were no focus groups or anything like that. So, I mean, we made some assumptions, and so what we did is we divided the electorate into several groups. There were empty nesters and senior homeowners who are quite tax sensitive. There are parents of charter school and independent school kids who are obviously very concerned about education, who understand what it takes to deliver a good education, and also have nothing to benefit from, directly from their proposal. Then there are people that are interested in good government and transparency, and the way this was brought about. Certainly they didn't agree with, right? So there were multiple groups and multiple reasons for people voting. What I think, if I was surprised by anything, is how much of the vote was driven by those people who were concerned about good government and transparency. This did offend their sensibilities. Oh, and there's one special group that I didn't mention, those that live around JFK Stadium. And so to give you a sense for how important an issue this was for them, people that live at 409th Street, people who have condos, about 19 condos that are on the north side of that building. Right now, they overlook the field. They can see sky, trees, our community. If this facility was built, there would be a solid brick wall just 20 feet away from their window. So imagine this: you all of a sudden your condo was every window in your condo now facing a solid brick wall 20 feet away. That would most certainly cut the value of their homes in half. That would that would destroy their quality of life for forever. And so the idea that you could do something that would have such a devastating personal impact on people, and do that, just spring it out with no collaboration with our community, that incensed a lot of our community. And so that's why you saw the vote as it is. I mean, it's 35 to 65 with almost 20% turnout in what would normally have been a sub 10% turnout referendum. You can't do that to our citizens without at least developing some broad consensus.
Right. All right. So finally, before I let you go, there's been a lot of talk about how the discourse on this has been, well, pretty poor. And, not to single any one or two or 10 people out, but anybody that's been on the Facebook groups, for the most part, not me actually, but I've got quite a few screenshots.
Oh, not me either.
But, you saw some people say some pretty unkind things on both sides. So what was your thought about the discourse throughout this whole thing?
It's social media, right? We tried in our messaging. I mean, you probably saw our flyers. I mean, we tried in our messaging to keep it on the issues, to stay away from personalities, but we wanted to bring out the facts. Unfortunately, we live in the era of social media where people are not as polite and as considerate of each other as they should be. But also at this particular time, coming out of the pandemic and all that, I mean, I describe this as sort of the era of anger. And you see it across our country right now, whether it's the behavior of people on airplanes or in other Board of Ed meetings or in other circumstances. There's just this general sense of anger. And I'll leave you with this. One of the reasons I was opposed to this referendum was that if it was asking a lot of our community. It would have a dramatic impact on our neighbors. And if this passed with, say, less than 10% turnout, most of the community would find out that their taxes have been substantially raised, that the value of their homes have been destroyed, or what have you. They would have found out after the fact. And one of my great concerns was that this would raise tensions and anger throughout our community, and that would have a dramatic negative impact on the discourse in our community. It could lead to the rise of populism and all those sorts of things. And it's something of this magnitude. You have to work with the community. You can't just say, here it is, vote for this. It's the largest tax increase ever. It's the most expensive project ever. Do it. If you don't do it, you don't love children. I mean, so by doing it this way, by making a binary choice like that, it naturally will lead to acrimony and coarse discourse. So it's unfortunate that it happened this way. And certainly we did what we could to tamp it down and keep it on the issues and the facts. But even if you kept it on the issues and facts, if someone isn't getting what they want for their child, they're going to be angry. If someone is concerned that the value of their home is going to be cut in half, they'll be looking at a brick wall, they're going to be angry. And so the process.
I'm going to stop you there, Jerome. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in one of our many high-rise towers. With amenities such as the on-site Newport Path, light rail, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Kohl's, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams and Acme Supermarket are just outside your front door. A health and fitness center, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. Enjoy the New York skyline from our waterfront and various parks. Manhattan is just one pass stop away, or a quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Looking to visit? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. For more information, visit us at newportnj.com. Make lasting memories to cherish forever. It's incredible. It's you, Newport. Live like you want.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut. John Arhitis. So let's go with this Hitman for Hire scheme. So this is coming out of the U.S. Attorney's Office of New Jersey. And, well, I think most of you know the story already, but I'll take it from the top. So a New Jersey political consultant, his name is Sean Cattle, 44, of Hamburg, pleaded guilty by video conference before U.S. District Judge John Michael Vasquez to an information charging him with 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder for hire. Vasquez allowed Cattle to remain out on $1 million unsecured bond, home detention with electronic monitoring, and travel restrictions. So, this is something that obviously nobody saw coming. This is a guy that many people have seen around Jersey City campaigns for, a couple decades now. So, you can imagine the shock and awe when this came out late Tuesday. So let's go to the U.S. Attorney Philip Selinger. He said this was a callous and violent crime, and this defendant is as responsible as the two men who wielded the knife. There is no more serious crime than the taking of another person's life. The defendant has admitted arranging and paying for a murder by two other people. His admission of guilt means he will now pay for his crime. And as many have heard, since the initial announcement, Cattle has through court documents, we now know that Cattle has been cooperating with the federal authorities. We'll see what that means. Obviously, there's a lot of unanswered questions. We don't have a motive in any way, shape, or form. None of that is in any of the criminal complaints or any of the announcements from the U.S. Attorney's Office. I'm sure that'll be forthcoming sooner than later. But in April of 2014, Cattle solicited one of his conspirators, identified as CC1, a Connecticut resident, to commit a murder on Cattle's behalf in exchange for thousands of dollars. CC1 then recruited a longtime accomplice from Philadelphia, identified as CC2, to join the plot. On May 22, 2014, CC1 and CC2 traveled from out of the state to the victim's apartment in Jersey City. After entering the apartment, CC1 and CC2 stabbed the victim to death, and then CC1 set fire to the victim's apartment. After Cattle learned the following day that the victim had been murdered, he met CC1 in the parking lot of a diner in Elizabeth, and he paid thousands of dollars in exchange for the murder. So, while authorities had not identified the victim, it didn't take politicos and news groups alike to identify who it was. Multiple sources confirmed it was Michael Galdieri, 52, of Jersey City, who was found stabbed to death with his apartment set on fire on May 22, 2014. He was actually the son of former state senator James Galdieri, and he ran for council in 2005. He actually got arrested on gun and drug charges the day before, so obviously that was not a successful effort, but he remained on the political scene for about the next decade and made a lot of friends, hung around and participated in a lot of campaigns on the municipal level, and ended up being a friend of Bill O'Day, who of course has been around for the better part of the last 3 decades. And I had a chance to speak to the county commissioner, of course a former city councilman as well, about this. And he said, I knew Mike since probably right after high school. He was very active in politics at an early age. His dad had been a state senator and he loved the game of politics. He enjoyed working on campaigns and staying up late in the diner talking about campaigns. He was a good guy. At the time, everyone thought that Mike was killed due to a dispute over drugs or money. This brings it to a whole new level. Obviously, Mike worked on elections for Cattle. And for those of you that maybe don't recognize the name, I imagine you've read and done your fair share of Googling, but nonetheless, I just want to point out, he ran the consulting firm Arcady, and he played a role in running several super PACs for Democrats, including the executive director for the Committee for Economic Growth and Social Justice, and they helped out in groups like, in municipalities such as Elizabeth, which was the hometown of former state senator Ray Lesniak, who was close with Cattle. Also Newark and Bayonne, and he helped Jimmy Davis get elected mayor in the June 2014 runoff, as Politicker NJ reported. So obviously this is a developing story. We're going to be combing through campaign contributions, and we're going to be looking at other documents from the U.S. Attorney and others. So as soon as we get an update, we're going to let you know. We're going to take one more break. We'll be right back.
Not everyone celebrates the birth of a baby. You have options. Don't panic. New Jersey has safe havens for unwanted infants. Leave the baby with staff at any hospital, ER, police or fire station, or rescue squad. Call the number on your screen for safe haven locations or go to www.njsafehaven.org. No shame, no blame, no names. Safe Haven.
Panapinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintodevelopment.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, John R. Highness. So let's go to the Peninsula City for a moment. Let's talk a little bit about what happened at the Board of Education meeting on Tuesday. As you guys probably know, at the end of December, the Board of Education declined to renew the contract of head football coach Dwayne Williams. The reason that this was notable is because Dwayne was just hired a year ago, was having a pretty good season. On October 29th, there was a fight on the field between the Bayonne high school football team. They were playing Behringer at the time, based out of Newark. And there was a report that was from the Super Football Conference. Obviously, they oversee the football operations, the games in New Jersey, and they recommended probation according to counsel for the board. We put in a formal request for the report. I don't have it yet, but when I do, we certainly will give you all those details. So with that in mind, Williams didn't get rehired, and then at the board meeting on Tuesday, the board decided they were going to go in another direction. They were going to hire Jared Hayes. And so with that, let's talk a little about what happened, Jerome Hayes. Let's talk a little bit about what happened at this meeting. So as we saw at the council meeting last week, we saw quite a few people speaking in favor of Williams, saying that he didn't get a fair shake, the board didn't do their due diligence at their investigation and other things along those lines. So, you know, we heard from a few players, one being Elijah Ortiz. He said the attitude that was lacking the last 3 years, Bayonne has been looking for a coach. Dwayne was their best option. The energy this year was a complete shift from the Bayonne team last year. So that's just one example. And we also heard from some friends, you know, Pat Desmond was one, and he said, first he asked why is the timing. He thought the timing was a little off because they usually hire the fall football coaches in the spring. And the Board of Education president, Maria Velardo, responded it was brought to us by the superintendent, and we just take his recommendation. Desmond said that that didn't basically sit well with him. He said before they should consider, they have to know who's being hired, who's pushing for the hire, why security was negligent at this October 29th game, and he vowed to continue fighting. And Williams himself actually got up and spoke, which you don't always see in these types of situations, but he did. And, you know, he had some powerful words. He said, first and foremost, I want you to understand one thing. This is not about Dwayne Williams. This is not about Jerome Hayes. It's about these kids. I see the support that Jerome got, and I appreciate that, but that's the support I never got from day one. And he was emphatic that Hayes was a good guy, a good coach, and also pointed out that he turned down big coaching opportunities in Iowa, Kansas City, and Oklahoma to stay in his home city. And, you know, basically just appears to be offended that this is the way that this went down. He said, so my question is, why stop me and not hire Jerome Hayes from day one and bring him back here now, back here today to put this thing together that I put together? And he also made note to the crowd that the superintendent of schools, the athletic director, and security were not in attendance in this controversial game. So the resolution to hire Hayes ultimately passed 7-0-1, with Velardo being the abstention. And interestingly, in the final 5 minutes of the meeting, we saw a new trustee named. That was Hector Gonzalez. And, you know, just a couple minutes, maybe 3-4 tops. And it was a unanimous vote, 8-0. He replaces trustee David Doc Watson. He was actually the first African-American elected official in Peninsula City history. He ended up stepping down because he was going to be moving out of the city borders. So just extremely quickly, wanted to also just mention that the Jersey City Council okayed an emergency COVID vaccination site waste disposal contract. It's just $30,000, which is really not much by municipal government standards. But it's interesting because 2 weeks ago, they authorized a $15 million contract with Bespoke Health. So, you know, not small. And this was not a big one that they approved 5-4, only $30,000 again. But a lot of people were wondering why this cost was not already built into the previous contract, and that led to some dispute and some debate among the council. But I'll let you check that out for your own. Of course, HudsonCountyView.com. We're going to call it a week. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me. We'll see you soon.